Look, I am going to be straight with you. Something feels deeply wrong right now, and you know it. I'm not talking about the usual garbage you see on your social media feed. I'm not talking about the latest political puppet show or the fake panic manufactured by the news to keep you clicking. I am talking about a structural rot. It is that cold, hollow, sinking feeling in your gut when you look at the price of a gallon of milk or your mortgage statement. It's like we are all standing on a massive frozen lake in the middle of a dark night. We can hear the ice cracking beneath our boots. The sound is echoing across the water, but everyone around you is pretending they are just dancing. Most people are experts at lying to themselves. They think the world is a straight line that just keeps going up forever. They think the stability they enjoyed 10 years ago was a birthright, but you are here because you know better. You know that history is not a line, it is a circle, and right now, that circle is closing its jaws. In the late 1990s, two historians named William Strauss and Neil Howe looked at 5 centuries of data and predicted exactly what you were living through. They did not use a crystal ball or some cheap astrology. They used the only thing that never lies, the math of human generations and the rhythm of history. They called it the fourth turning. They warned us that around the year 2005, America and the global order would enter a period of crisis that would rival the Civil War and the Great Depression. They said institutions would fail. They said the social contract would be shredded. They said the financial system would face an existential reckoning. And they said it would all reach a violent, transformative climax in the year 2025. Welcome to 2025, the year the music stops, the year the bill comes due for 40 years of printing money and pretending the math does not matter. We are in the final act of a 20-year winter, and most of you are still wearing summer clothes. In this video, we are not just going to talk about why the world feels like it is ending, we are going to look at the cold, hard numbers that prove we are at the end of an 80-year cycle. We are going to look at why your bank account, your government, and your future are all about to go through a meat grinder. History is about to reset. The only question is whether you are going to be the one holding the hammer or the one lying on the anvil. Buckle up. This is the truth about the 80-year turn and why the world as you know it dies this year. History does not move because of abstract forces. It moves because of people. Specifically, it moves because of the friction between generations. Right now, we are witnessing a Cold War at the dinner table, a generational train wreck that has been building for decades. To understand why 2025 is a total reset, you have to understand the 4 types of players on the field and who is holding the bag. First, we have the prophet generation. The baby boomers. These people were born in the spring, the high. They grew up in the most prosperous era in human history. They were given a world with cheap housing, stable jobs, and a dollar that actually bought something. But as they aged, they became the moralistic prophets of the awakening. They spent the 60s finding themselves, and then they spent the 80s and 90s selling off the country piece by piece to fund their own lifestyle. They are the ones who voted for the policies that inflated the housing bubble. They are the ones who sat in boardrooms while wages stagnated for 40 years while their own stock portfolios exploded. Now, in 2025, they are the old guard clinging to power. Look at our leaders. Most of them are well past the age of retirement, but they refuse to let go of the steering wheel, even as the car is heading straight for a cliff. They are the generation that ate the seed corn and left the husks for their children. Then you have the nomads, Generation X. These are the kids who were raised on divorce, latchkeys, and neglect while their parents were busy protesting or getting rich. Because they grew up in the chaos of the awakening and the unraveling, they are cynical, tough, and deeply skeptical. They are the pragmatic managers trying to keep the machines running while the boomers scream at each other about culture wars. Gen X is the forgotten generation. They are the ones who see the disaster coming but are too exhausted from fixing everyone else's mess to do much about it. Next up is the hero generation, the millennials, and this is where the tragedy really begins. Millennials were the overprotected children of the unraveling. They were told they were special. They were given participation trophies, and they were told that if they just got a degree, they would be set for life. It was a lie. Millennials entered the workforce just as the 2008 crisis hit. They are the first generation in modern history to be poorer than their parents. In 1989, boomers held 21% of the national wealth. Today, millennials hold less than 5%, and they are already in their prime working years. They are drowning in over $1 trillion of student loan debt. They are looking at home prices that are 10 times their annual salary. They were groomed to be the heroes who would fix the world, but instead they were sent into a burning building with a bucket of gasoline. Finally, we have the artist generation, Gen Z. These kids were born into the crisis. They don't remember a time before school shootings, economic instability, or the constant surveillance of social media. They are growing up with record levels of anxiety and depression, and why wouldn't they? They are watching the adults in the room lose their minds. They are the sensitive ones who will have to refine whatever is left after the fire of 2025 burns itself out. Here is the dark truth. The generational gears are grinding. The boomers are refusing to leave the stage. Gen X is checked out, and millennials are finally reaching the age where they have to take over. This is the handoff from hell. In the 1930s, it was the Great Depression that turned the youth into the soldiers who stormed Normandy. In 2025, the crisis is not a foreign army. It is a broken economic system. It is a $34 trillion debt ceiling that has been smashed. It is an AI revolution that is about to make 40% of white-collar jobs obsolete. Millennials and Gen Z are about to be tested in a way that their parents never were. The boomers spent the future, and now the bill has arrived in the mailbox of their children. The generational war is not about politics. It is about math. It is about who gets to eat and who gets to starve in the new order. 2025 is the year the debt is settled, and the settlement will not be peaceful. It will be a total restructuring of who owns what and who owes whom. The party is over, and the kids are the ones left to clean up the blood and the broken glass. Now we get to the meat of the matter. Why specifically 2025? Is it just a magic number on a historian's calendar? No. It is the point where all the fake math of the last 80 years finally hits a brick wall called reality. If the fourth turning is a winter storm, then 2025 is the blizzard that collapses the roof. Let's look at the financial crime scene. For the last 2 decades, the global economy has been kept on life support by central banks printing money out of thin air. In the year 2000, the total United States national debt was around $5 trillion. By 2008, it was $10 trillion. Today, as we sit in 2025, that number has exploded past $34 trillion. That is 34 followed by 12 zeros. It is a number so large that the human brain cannot even visualize it. But here is the kicker. The interest alone on that debt is now costing over $1 trillion a year. That is more than we spend on our entire military. We are borrowing money just to pay the interest on the money we already borrowed. In any other world, this is called a Ponzi scheme. In the world of global finance, they call it a soft landing. Don't make me laugh. The fourth turning theory says that every crisis period ends with a total restructuring of the financial and social order. Why? Because the system becomes too heavy to support its own lies. In 1794, we got the federal tax system. In 1865, we got the national banking system. In 1945, we got the Bretton Woods Agreement and the reign of the almighty dollar. Every 80 years, the money dies and is reborn. Look around you. The signs of the rebirth are everywhere, and they are violent. We are seeing the death of the petrodollar. Nations like China, Russia, and even old allies are moving away from the dollar because they see the ship is sinking. They don't want to be holding a bag of worthless paper when the music stops in 2025. And then there is the ghost in the machine, artificial intelligence. We are not just facing an economic shift, we are facing a biological one. Experts predict that by the end of this year, AI could displace or radically change up to 40% of all jobs globally. We are talking about lawyers, coders, accountants, and managers, the very people who make up the tax base of the middle class. When you combine $34 trillion of debt with a massive disappearance of taxable income, what do you think happens to the government? It panics. A panicked government is the most dangerous thing on earth. They will try to fix the problem by seizing more control. We are already seeing the push for central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. This is not just a new way to pay for coffee, it is a programmable leash. They want to be able to track every cent you spend, and more importantly, they want to be able to turn off your ability to spend if you don't follow the rules of the new order. This is the end game of the fourth turning crisis, a total battle for the soul of freedom versus the efficiency of a collapsing state. But it is not just about the money, it is about the total loss of trust. In the 1950s, 75% of people trusted the government to do the right thing. Today, that number is hovering around 10%. People don't trust the news, they don't trust the banks, they don't trust the courts, and they certainly don't trust each other. This is the definition of an institutional collapse. When the fourth turning reaches its climax, society splits into two camps, those who want to burn it all down and those who are desperately trying to build something new from the ashes. History shows that this climax usually involves a massive conflict. It could be a hot war, a cyber war, or a total internal collapse that feels like a civil war. The year 2025 is the deadline because the pressure cooker can't take any more heat. The boomer leaders are aging out, the debt is compounding faster than we can print, and the technology is moving faster than we can regulate. This is the moment of the Great Reset, not the one the billionaires talk about at their fancy meetings in Switzerland, but the one that history demands. The old world is a dead man walking. He is still moving, his heart is still beating, but the brain is already gone. 2025 is the year we finally bury the corpse. So, what happens after the smoke clears? Does the world just stop spinning in 2025? No, but the world you were promised is gone, and it is not coming back. History tells us that a fourth turning ends in one of two ways: total transformation or total collapse. There is no middle ground. There is no going back to the way things were in the 1990s. If we look at the previous cycles, the resolution is always radical. In 1787, the Americans didn't just fix the old system, they ripped it up and wrote a constitution that changed the world. In 1865, the United States ceased being a collection of states and became a single industrial empire. In 1945, the old European empires died, and a global superpower was born. The resolution of 2025 will be just as massive. But here is the black comedy of our current situation. Those previous generations had a shared sense of purpose. They had a common enemy. They had a clear vision of what they wanted to build. Look at us today. We are a house divided against itself, arguing over definitions and shadows, while the foundation is being washed away by a flood of debt. The most likely outcome of this turning is a great simplification. For 80 years, we have built a world of extreme complexity, just-in-time supply chains, global financial derivatives, and massive government bureaucracies. Complexity is expensive, and we are officially out of money. The new high that begins after 2025 will likely be more local, more decentralized, and much harder than the one your parents enjoyed. Now, for a little bit of a history lesson that your school teacher forgot to mention, every time a debt bubble this large bursts, the middle class is the one that gets slaughtered. The elites have their gold, their land, and their private jets. The poor are already used to having nothing. It is the man who worked for 30 years, saved his money in a 401k, and played by the rules who gets the most painful lesson. The rule for the next 20 years is simple. Do not trust the system to save you. The government is not a charity. It is an insurance company with a standing army and a printing press. And right now, the insurance company is insolvent. If you want to survive the rebirth, you have to think like a citizen of a crisis. Real assets matter. Physical skills matter. Community matters. In the high of the 1950s, you could be a cog in the machine and live a great life. In the climax of 2025, if you are just a cog, the machine is going to chew you up to lubricate its gears. The rebirth will happen, but it will be forged in the fire of necessity. We will be forced to build a new financial system because the old one will be unusable. We will be forced to build new schools because the old ones are factories of debt and indoctrination. We will be forced to lead because the leaders we have are fossils. This is the moment of regeneracy. It is the moment when the hero generation finally stops waiting for permission and starts building the world they want to live in. It's going to be messy, it's going to be painful, and for many it will be the end of their way of life. But for those with eyes to see, it is the greatest opportunity in 80 years. The ice has already cracked. You are already in the water. Now you have to decide if you are going to sink with the old world or swim to the new one. So here we are, standing at the edge of the map. The old world is behind us, and the new one hasn't been built yet. Some people will watch this and call it doom and gloom. Those are the same people who would have told you the Titanic was unsinkable while the water was already at their knees. It is not doomed to acknowledge the change of seasons. It is just intelligence. Winter is the most honest season of all. It kills off the weak, the fake, and the bloated to make room for the green shoots of spring. The financial bubbles, the corrupt institutions, and the generational parasites are all being subjected to a hard freeze, and frankly, it is about time. 2025 is the year you find out who you really are. Are you a man who relies on a broken system, or are you a man who can build his own foundation? The fourth turning does not ask for your permission, and it does not care about your feelings. It only demands a reset. The clock is ticking toward midnight. The ice has shattered, and the water is freezing. But remember, every great era in human history was born out of a crisis just like this one. The greatest generation did not become great because they had it easy. They became great because they survived the fire and used the heat to forge something better. Now it is your turn. Turn off the news, look at your bank account, look at your family, and start making a plan that does not involve a government rescue. The dawn is coming, but the night is going to be very cold. Make sure you are the one holding the torch. Thanks for listening to the truth that no one else wants to tell you. If you are still here, it means you are already ahead of 99% of the crowd. Welcome to the end of the world and the beginning of a new one. Goodbye for now.